Hello everyone, we will wait for a couple of more minutes for more people to join in. Hello Prithviraj, hello Divyanshu, hello Sara. Just like yesterday's session, I'll be looking at my phone again for seeing your live comments. A very good evening to all of you. We'll begin roughly around 5:05. Today's session is going to be about how to choose your MBA specialization, what all factors are involved in making that decision, and what works well for you and what might not. I hope you enjoy the session. For the early birds, just give me a confirmation if you can hear me and see me loud and clear as well as the presentation. Just give me a confirmation in the YouTube comments, that would be great. Just a couple of more minutes and I think we'll be ready to begin. Meanwhile, again, if you have any questions regarding how exactly to choose your MBA specialization, or that is something that you're worrying about, you have any doubts or concerns, you can obviously post it in the comment box and I'll be happy to cover that up in the subsequent presentation as well. All right. Great. If the audio and video is all great, let's begin. So this session, like I said, is going to be about how to choose your MBA specialization, what kind of packages you can expect, as well as what factors are involved if you want to make that decision. So I'll start off with the common MBA specializations that are available in the market right now. And the first and foremost is MBA in finance. There's MBA in marketing, there's MBA in finance, there's MBA in ops as well. So I'll try to cover MBA in finance first. If you'll see on the right side of your screen, those are the kind of roles that are involved in a finance after you do an MBA. So they're basically financial institutions, they are business finances roles, and they are investment firms like Goldman Sachs who offer different varieties of roles. It can be about financial management, you're basically managing somebody else's money. It can be a corporate, it can be an individual, high net worth individual as well. It can be around risk management. There are credits that are being given out by the banks. So it can be around that. There can be compliance roles. There can be financial consulting roles. There can be venture capital, which is basically investing in, if you would have been seeing Shark Tank. This is something that, those are the kind of VCs that we are talking about. It can be about commercial banking. There are plenty of companies or banks like SBI even, which come to top tier IIMs or top tier B schools to offer commercial banking roles. There are insurance firms which are offering insurance roles. There are real estate firms who are again roles around finance, financial planning, where it includes the analytics part of it as well as the forecasting part of it. Investment management for again institutional firms as well as high net worth individuals, which are basically called NWIs. Investment analysis, investment banking, which is one of the top paying roles. Investor relations, where basically it becomes more around whoever is your customer, how exactly do you keep the stakeholder balance in check. Investor relations, as well as treasury management and strategy and planning. What kind of roles? If we have summarized it in a table on the left side, so account manager, financial analyst, investment banking manager, and chief financial officer in the longer run is something that the roles that you can aspire for. And what kind of skills are required? Finance is basically a numbers game. Majorly, some of the roles are around algorithms and some of the roles are around stakeholder management as well. Let's say investor relations, for example. But at finance, when you hear the term finance, it should come as a given that you should be good with numbers. You should be good in your quantitative aptitude. So number crunching is the first and foremost skill that you should have. If you see a huge data set, it should not bother you that, oh my God, so many numbers. If you are aspiring for a career in finance, you got to be comfortable with numbers. Second is financial tools. There are a lot of financial tools available in the market, and you have to be updated with them throughout as time progresses, because these financial tools keeps on changing, and these financial tools actually help in the first part of it, which is number crunching. So even you will not be expected to crunch a million set of data or somewhere around that time, because they have financial tools. All of these companies have their respective financial tools. All of these banks also have their respective financial tools, and you ought to be updated with these kind of financial tools so that you are actually good at analysis as well as recommendations for the respective client that you might have. Analytical skills is again a given when it comes to consulting, when it comes to investment banking, when it comes to treasury management, or when it comes to financial planning kind of roles as well. Because if you're not good enough at analyzing the numbers that you have, the data that you have, how good your recommendations can be. So analytical skills is something that is also very important to have a role in finance. Presentation skills, because you'll be actually giving it out to clients and top leadership of these particular customers. These customers can be huge corporates, these customers can be banks, these customers can be just a factory, or these customers can be just an individual net worth individual. So to give them a presentation or an idea or a recommendation, when you're actually telling them that you will be able to manage their finances as well as recommend them to how exactly grow their business or their finances, is something ensured by your presentation skills. So after you have done the number crunching, after you have used the tools, after you have applied your analytical skills, for your recommendations part of it, presentation skill is something that is very important that you should have. And then decision making, because finance is very vague. Nobody clearly knows how exactly stock markets function. Nobody clearly knows how exactly tradings function. There might be a lot of practice involved, there might be a lot of common sense is what you might think, but markets are fluctuating always, since like the time immemorial, since like the birth of capitalism. So decision making hence becomes a crucial skill that you should have, because you are dealing with money. The capitalism world revolves around money. And if you have a role, if you have a degree in finance and then you have a role in finance, you ought to be prepared for very ambiguous situations around money. So if you do not have decision making skills, you might end up giving very wrong recommendations to the customer, and he might lose out his entire net worth, and you will be to be the blamed. And if you take that blame, that reduces your brand value as well as your company's brand value, your organization that you're a part of. So decision making is again a very crucial skill that you should have if you're considering a role in finance. What kind of personality type is required if you are trying to do an MBA in finance? You should be independent, because number crunching, people can help you by the time or two or for some months when you are new to the organization, but eventually you will be asked to do it on your own, because that is something that you should have as a skill. Same goes for analytical skills, same goes for presentations, and same goes eventually for decision making as well. So a personality type of an independent worker is usually preferred, because you will be given independent projects, you will be given individual 5 to 6 clients to deal with, or you will be given 5 to 6 prospective clients to have a venture capital interest in, or have an investment banking interest in. and you'll have to deal with that on an independent level, on an individual level. So independent is something that is strongly a personality type that is recommended if you're considering a career in finance. You should also be a team worker. So it goes a bit paradoxical, because you will be working with teams, like let's say you're a finance manager, there might be a customer relationship manager who is actually trying to ensure that we get more, who tries to ensure that you actually have good relationship with the client that you're working with. There might be salespeople operating who are bringing you new prospective clients so that you can actually manage their wealth and funds, and other team workers as well. So you ought to be a very good team worker as well. You ought to be problem solver. That is a given in finance, because decision making is involved, presentation skills are involved, analytical skills are involved as well. And finance is something that, like I said, can deal with a lot of ambiguity. So if there's a lot of problems incoming, if you're not a good problem solver, this role might not just be for you. And I have already mentioned the essential skill, that is analytical personality type that you should have, because if you cannot analyze the numbers that you're given, if you cannot analyze the market conditions, if you cannot analyze the customers' conditions and the customers' finances, you will not be suitable for a role in finance. Green chart, I'll try, Devanshu has said green chart is not fully visible, so I'll try to cover that again. It basically, you can take a screenshot of this as well and zoom in later on, but I'll try to cover it. Basically talks about the different roles that there are in finance industry. So it is broadly divided into business finance, investments, and financial institutions. And the roles that I have been mentioned has, for business finance, there comes financial management, risk management, and compliance. For financial institutions like banks and commercial banks as well as private banks, there might be, or investment banks, there might be, can be roles for like consulting, financial consulting we're talking about, venture capitalism, and venture capital, and commercial banking, insurance, and real estate. For on the investments part, they can be financial planning on which particular industries or which particular clients to invest in, investment management, if you have already invested, how exactly do you manage those kind of funds, investment analysis when you have already invested. I will be covering all specializations, Muskan, and investment banking, investor relations, treasury management, strategy and planning. These are some of the roles that are available in the market. They can be new as well, as in the financial tools, which is mentioned in the skills part of its progress. Nish has asked, hey, so I have heard that finance companies only choose finance background people, consulting choose great past accounts, so is only marketing left for us. Is that true? No, not necessarily. Like I said, if you're good with numbers, if you have a certification like a CFA or something, that is well and good, that actually adds to your profile. But even if you do not, it is not a necessity that you will not get financial shortlist. But if you have anything to showcase in your profile that shows that you are good with numbers, you might get a shortlist. So if you have a good enough quantitative aptitude and you have showcased leadership skills, or you are that you are an independent worker, that you are a team solver, that you are a team worker as well as a good problem solver, you might get the finance shortlist. And same goes for consulting as well. That it's not a necessity that only great past acads gets chosen to consulting firms. Consulting, I'll talk about later. It's not really a specialization. It's more about a job role. But consulting also, just give me a moment. Consulting also not just cares about your past acads, it also cares about how structured your profile is. That have you ever had a balanced approach, or you are a good problem solver, you think structurally. If you can showcase that through your profile or through your resume, you do get consulting shortlist. So it's not a necessity niche that only marketing is left for you, and I'll be covering other specializations as well. Next comes MBA in marketing. Another sought after role. Usually a lot of companies these days are preferring freshers for marketing roles, because marketing requires a lot of creativity, and they consider that if people who are already in corporates work in a certain way, so they perhaps lose out on their creativity. So even these schools have started preferring freshers, because most of the marketing firms are preferring freshers. What kind of roles can come in? They can be roles around brand management, they can be conceptualization of your marketing campaign, they can be opportunities, what kind of opportunities, they can be go-to-market strategies, they can be solutioning of those go-to-market strategies, they can be advertising, how exactly do we innovate in our marketing strategy, how do we deal with customer relationship, or how exactly do we bring in more customers, and marketing research is something that is broadly covered in the domain of marketing. And on the left side, if you'll see the table, what kind of roles are available, sales manager and marketing manager have been put together, because even if you have a role on your profile as a marketing manager, they usually make you do a bit of sales first so that you understand the customer base that you will be operating in, understand the consumer behavior that you will be a part of, and then deal with the marketing campaigns or the go-to-market strategies, GTM strategies, how we call it, will be a part will that you will be running eventually. Marketing research analyst is another role because you have to have a lot of idea about how exactly does your customer operate, how exactly does he think, what kind of demographic is he in, what kind of age group does he belong to, what kind of target group are you exactly targeting for your particular product. So that actually includes the importance of marketing research, and once you are done with the research, to analyze those results is actually how you identify your target group, how you plan out your go-to-market strategy, how you plan out your value proposition of the product, which are important and crucial aspects of marketing campaign in general. So marketing research analyst is another role that is available. Public relationship manager is again around customer relationship management, so basic or basically media skills or those kind of stuff, so that your brand value of the organization or your product in general does not get diluted if even if you are running, let's say, a bad campaign, because it has happened to a lot of big companies that they ran a particular advertisement and that did not work out. So how exactly do you deal with media after that? Do you deal with your customers after that? That is the kind of role of a public relationship manager, again a part of marketing. And brand manager can be for a product, can be for a multiple set of products, can be for the entire organization if you're a part of startup as well. So basically how your brand looks like in the market, how exactly your brand is perceived in the market. He can have an advertising team separately, he can have a marketing campaigning team separately, but brand manager basically is the owner or has the onus of how exactly does your brand get perceived in the market that it is operating in. Skills. What are the skills required? You should know about consumer behavior. A degree in psychology is a well and plus. Even if you read some of the brilliant books that are available on marketing, there's a book by Porter. There are a lot of other marketing books available in the market. So you'll start understanding the consumer behavior. If you understand consumer behavior, you automatically become a great marketer. Communication skills, because you have to communicate not just to the internal stakeholders, you have to communicate a lot to your customers as well as to communicate the brand value proposition that your product brings into the market. You have to be good at communication if you want to have a career in marketing. Again, marketing tools. These tools will keep on featuring in almost every specialization that we are talking about today, because with tools, what exactly happens is whatever your capabilities are, that just gets exponentially improved, because these tools help you actually identify or analyze, let's say marketing research की बात हो गई, या let's say consumer research की बात हो गई, या फिर let's say campaign launch की बात हो गई. And these kind of tools actually help you to actually make it more efficient. Presentation skills is again a given. An MBA, that's why it is very, very prioritized that you have a good presentation skill, because eventually you will be presenting it to the top tier leadership of any customer or any client or even any boardroom in general. So you ought to have a good presentation skills, and with marketing it comes as a given that you should have it. If you cannot market it well, you will not be able to sell it well. And strategic decision making. What kind of demographic are we targeting? What kind of customer group are we targeting? What kind of markets do we want to launch it in first? What kind of price points do we have? Those kind of strategic decision making is something that will strongly be required if you are looking at a career in marketing. What is the personality type? First and foremost, you ought to be creative. If you'll see the advertisements around, the ones that stick are very, very creative. Daag achhe hain is a prime example, that despite calling daag achhe hain, you are actually advertising a detergent. Somebody very creative must have come up with that. Same goes for the Amul iconic brand. Same goes for a lot of other creative campaigns that have been launched here and there. So you ought to be creative if you are looking for a career in marketing. Is precisely why I think most of the companies these days are preferring freshers, because they believe that the new generation comes with a lot of more and newer creative thoughts than the older generation of people who are already stuck in the corporate world that they are a part of. Second, problem solver. Again, marketing, just like finance, is a very ambiguous field to be a part of. You never really know what might work and what might not. Some campaigns work, some don't. You never really know what kind of, even if you do know that the target group that you're identifying is actually good, that product might end up being really opposite. Like Facebook, when it was launched, Facebook was launched for college grads. But right now, if you'll see, Facebook is mostly used by the older generation people, not the new generation people. So you ought to be a problem solver on how exactly do I deflect my marketing, or how exactly do I deal with my marketing if those kind of ambiguities happen as and when I run my campaigns. and analytical skills, of course, because market research will require a lot of analytical skills to understand the consumer behavior, to understand the demographics, to understand the product offerings, and to understand the product placement in the entire market that you're a part of. I'll try to go through some comments. Mohammed Subhan has had comment multiple times. In which domain of MBA has better work-life balance? Weekend holiday, festival holidays, emergency holidays. In case if the salary is low, it's okay for me. I'm the one who can take care of parents. I think it's a given that any high-paying job, Mohammed, will not usually come with a good work-life balance. What my personal experience has been that finance and consulting are something that might not have a good work-life balance. Product management in the industry is something that is known for having a good work-life balance. Same goes for marketing. Once you're done with your campaign and once you're done with the go-to-market strategies, you can go back to your life. And apart from that, general management is something that also has a decent work-life balance. So those are the specializations that I can think of. Sir, how to know which college to join for the specified specialization we want to do? We have tried to cover this for marketing. I think I might have missed out that on finance, but we have tried to cover that in the central table, that which these schools are known best for, at least the marketing. So you can take a screenshot of these colleges, and these are the top B schools that are good at marketing. IIM Ahmedabad is known as Mecca for marketing, and ABC are all good. ISB Hyderabad is also there, MDI Gurgaon is also there, so you can take a screenshot of. I'll be covering similar B schools, top B schools in the subsequent specialization that I'll be talking about, except business analytics. I could not find much there. But I hear IIM Calcutta is supposedly one of the best. And not saying because I am from IIM Calcutta, I have just heard that in general from the market. All right, I think I covered the recent comments. What to say in why MBA if I want career in corporate? I have tried to cover this in a separate video, Geeta. So you might as well go to the iQuanta website, iQuanta YouTube channel, and watch on the common B school interview questions. I've tried to answer why MBA, how can you cover that. I've covered the domains, Mohammed. Another common MBA specialization is operations. Operation management, what exactly does it entail? It entails, because you're a part of ops exactly deals with what are the requirements for your product furnishing, how can we plan it, what are the resources that are involved. You oversee it, then you design it, you understand the cost, you make that entire operation efficient, you control that operation, you also take care of how exactly you are producing, or what are the production metrics, what exactly is the strategy, and then cover the entire input to output is what operations management roughly is. What kind of roles do they offer? They offer operation manager role, they offer inventory manager role. Inventory manager will basically take care of inventory. Let's say you are into an FMCG or you are into a firm like Blinkit. So there might be an inventory involved. Let's say you are in a firm which sells t-shirts or sells clothes or sells anything that has a higher shelf life. So that automatically makes an inventory an important part of your business, and somebody needs to manage that. What kind of raw materials are coming in, how much inventory do you have, how much inventory is going out, that becomes a part of your inventory management. Supply chain is again very important in this. Supply chain manager will take care of the similar things. Operation manager will actually be an overseer of all the entire input output process, because he'll be taking care of the requirements, he'll be planning, he'll also make strategic decisions, and he'll identify the resources to be involved and how exactly to utilize them. And manufacturing, these roles are not usually after an MBA, but if you have a good enough manufacturing background, you can be offered certain roles. Manufacturing manager, because manufacturing manager will again have to plan the inventory as well as raw material production, as well as how much output we are throwing in on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. What is the throughput of my operations or my particular factory or my particular inventory, and what is the bottleneck? To identify those bottlenecks, remove them, is how an operations role works. What kind of skills are required? You will find that skills are very similar. That's why it is called an MBA, because MBA is basically a generalist, but there are certain skills that is more required in a particular specialization than others. In this also you will require an analytical skills, because you'll get a lot of numbers. What does your inventory right now look like? What is your forecast for the inventory? What sales are you expecting? What is the cost related to that? How can you make the operations more efficient and fast? is something that you can only figure out if you have good analytical skills. Strategic thinking, how does your company plan to, or how does your company plan to expand its business? What is the number of inventories are we looking at? What is the raw material that we can deal with? What is the kind of output that we can throw out in the market? How exactly is our market running right now? What is the number of products that we have been selling? These all become a part of the operations, and you have to have a strategic thinking if you want to forecast it. Let's say 6 months down the line, what exactly does your output look like, or your input will be affected by a certain seasonality or something. Problem solving is again similar to once you're done the strategic thinking, once you've analyzed the problems, you actually have to solve them because you are the manager. So problem solving is another very crucial aspect of your operations role. Communication skills, because you'll have to deal with a lot of people, be it a warehouse manager, be it let's say I had a few friends who were working in ITC or HUL or firms like that, and they had to deal with the truck drivers that are a part of their operations, because these truck drivers were actually responsible to bring that product from the warehouses to the actual market. And if these truck drivers do not reach on time, then the inventory fulfillment does not happen. So you might have to deal with, if you're a part of a bigger company, these truck drivers as well, inventory warehouse managers, or some other. In manufacturing management, you'll have to deal with the factory workers and those kind of operations. So you'll have to have a very good communication skills. You should know how to deal with people from top tier as well as people from bottom tier, blue collar workers even, and how to deal with them well. So communication skill becomes imperative. And again, decision making, because you will be deciding on what exactly is the bottleneck in the processes that I currently see. How can that be removed? How can we make our organization more efficient, more cost effective? So decision making is again involved. What kind of personality types? Creative again, because companies who have been running since 20-25 years might as well not be looking at a particular operational bottleneck which might be identified by a new person coming in. So if you are creative, you automatically become very good in both marketing and operations kind of role. If you're analytical, you can actually analyze the operational bottleneck that you can see and actually improve upon them. If you're a team worker, you automatically, it is a given that you'll have a good communication skill, plus the kind of teams that you'll be working with will be very, very different in operations, because you might have to deal with a lot of, like I said, white collar as well as blue collar workers. So you ought to be a team worker to understand them both, understand their needs and provide them with whatever they want. And a negotiator again, because you'll have to deal with very different people coming from different strata of society. You ought to be a very good negotiator if you are in an operations role. In the center, I have mentioned some colleges which are considered good at operations. You can take a screenshot for your future reference. ISB, NITI, SPJAN, SJM SOM, DMS, VG SOM are some of the prime examples which are good at operations. I'll just go through the comments again. Experience in power plant operations for 2 years. Now what MBA I have to choose? What MBA I have to choose is not just dependent upon your experience, Karthik, but I will try to cover that later on in my presentation. What exactly are the factors that you can consider to choose a specialization? I am trying to just cover the common MBA specializations that are available. If you see that you fit the personality type, you should go ahead and take that. Mohammed, I have already answered your question. I hope you were listening. In which domain I did tell you that the kind of domains that we can cover, and consulting is finance is something that I do not believe has a very good work-life balance. I can be wrong there as well. There might be new firms. So I have answered that. And apart from that, marketing, product management, sales also sometimes does offer you a good work-life balance. I am from manufacturing background, want to choose operations as my specialization. What certification course should I do to enhance my background? If you are from a manufacturing background already, I don't think you need a certification. The kind of questions that they'll be asking you in an interview process will roughly be more around how to do inventory management, supply chain questions, and so on and so forth. So I don't think there are certifications required. Certifications don't add up that much in a B school interview anyway. Muhammad has only been talking since 5 to 6 comments. I have simply told you the domains. Karthik, I hope I answered your question. Alright, let's move on. Next common MBA specialization is MBA in Human Resource Management. Human Resource Management again becomes a crucial role because any organization will have a lot of human resources. If there's not a manager to actually manage those human resources, the company might become chaotic, because all humans come with their own sets of biases, with their own sets of, let's say, sometimes ego issues, sometimes there's different style of working in general as well. To make them collaborate and to make them work together as a team and to achieve a common goal, which might be the organizational excellence, or a particular product's excellence, particular projects management, or anything in general, requires a lot of management. So to bring together, let's say, 50 to 100 folks in a small startup to around 5,000 folks in a bigger organization, you ought to have a human resource manager who is good at it. So what kind of what kind of decision making or what kind of roles are involved in that? In the right side picture, if you'll see, HRM basically involves strategic objectives. What are the strategic objectives of my organization? How many employees, what kind of employees, how do we manage that? Training becomes an essential part, because you want to train these particular employees in the kind of culture that you're building in the organization. Employee recruitment as well, because there might be a human resource depletion or limitation in certain aspects or certain projects or certain products, so you want to hire new people as well. That is also taken care by the HRM. Rewarding, once the employee has actually done something good for the company, are there rewards in place, are there actually appraisals and those kind of things in place? Business value that has been created by these particular sections that he's trying to cover, and manage the success of these respective employees as well as the organization in general. What kind of roles? HR manager, technical recruiter, compensation manager, HR consultant, and HR executive. So HR manager, HR consultant, and HR executive will roughly take care of the entire cycle that I have tried to provide in the right side, while a technical recruiter will only take care of, let's say, interview process or the recruiting process in general, and a compensation manager will only take care of the incentives created or the rewarding sections or the cost to companies and so on and so forth. So HR manager and HR consultants usually do everything that is a part of the right side graphics: strategic objectives, employee training, employee recruitment, rewarding, business value, and success for the organization in general. What kind of skills? Primary skill is to have communication. If you cannot communicate well with your employees, you cannot be a good HR manager. So primary skill is communication. You also got to negotiate, and you also ought to have empathy to understand their viewpoint and then come to a common goal or a common ground, so that you can actually together achieve whatever the organization's strategic objectives are. Analytical tools, sometimes, because for recruitment you might get, like, say, 1,000 CVs or such, so you have to have analytical tools understanding to how exactly identify top 20 or top 25 out of those. So a good understanding of such analytical tools helps in HR management. Presentation skills, because you might be asked to give a company presentation to respective colleges, you might be asked to give a training presentation to your respective employees, and if you're not good at your presentation skills, the value of your communication might be lost out on. So you ought to have a good presentation skills for being a good HR manager as well. And of course, a problem solver. If you're not a problem solver, you will not be able to solve your employee problems. You will not be able to solve anything that is occurring, that is affecting your employees in the organization, as well as the strategic objectives that is a part of your particular organization. So you ought to be a problem solver if you are a good human resource manager. What kind of personality type? First and foremost, people manager. You ought to have certain bits of empathy to understand people, to actually communicate with them, to talk to them, to understand their viewpoints, to let go of your viewpoint, as well as to reduce the biases that they might have, you might have, to achieve the common goals that an organization has. You also ought to have leadership skills, because you'll be dealing with a lot of employees of the organization, and certain employees work in certain different kind of ways, different style of working, different biases they might have, different kind of issues or concerns they might have with the respective work or the respective compensation that they are getting. A leadership skill actually manages to handle that well and take them together along towards a common goal of whatever your organization is. Decision maker, sometimes you have to hire people, sometimes you have to fire people. An HR manager is a very good decision maker in the sense that he or she knows ideally when exactly to do both those things, as well as invest more in their human resource or invest lesser in the human resource if the company's costs are being affected by certain other factors. And a good communicator, of course, because if you are not a good communicator, you cannot be a good people manager as well. So communication, like I mentioned in the skills part, is a very necessary tool to have if you are a good if you want to be in a career in human resource. So you ought to be a good communicator, because you'll have to communicate with different sets of varieties of people. People come from different backgrounds, people come from different cultures. If you're a part of MNC, people will come from different countries as well. So if you're not a good communicator, you'll not be able to be a good human resource manager. In the center, I've tried to explain some of the B schools which are considered to be very good in human resource management courses. So if you want to choose an MBA specialization in human resource, these are the kind of top B schools that you can consider. XLRI Jamshedpur is actually known as the top college in Asia for the course in human resource management. So XLRI Jamshedpur is definitely a top priority if you are considering a role in HR management. This Mumbai comes next, MDI Gurgaon, IIM Ranchi, IIM Trichy, SCM HRD are some of the other colleges that you can go to if you are looking at a career in human resource. I'll just try to cover the respective comments. Mohammed Subhan is again going with the same comments. I will not be taking that up. Which domain has the 10 to 5 jobs in MBA? Better work-life balance, holidays, festival. See, Mohammed, after an MBA, you basically usually become a manager. So it's not a given that you'll be getting a 10 to 5 job. It will be more about what exactly are you doing? How exactly are you contributing to the company? So a 10 to 5 job is basically a typical, let's say, an IT associate or an IT kind of scenario. But if you are an MBA, what you do and how do you contribute to the organization becomes much more important than what is the time that you're working with. So let's say you're in marketing or let's say you're in sales. If you're achieving your numbers from let's say just 12 to 3, you're fine. Go home. Have fun with your life, have fun with your family, have fun with your children if you have any, and have fun with your friends. But if you are not being able to contribute to the organization as what your set targets are, if you're not being able to achieve that, then your work-life balance does suffer. Or if you're into a very demanding job, let's say consulting or finance, because finance involves a lot of number crunching and consulting involves a lot of presentation skills as well as problem solving, it might take away a bit more of your time. So you ought to make that choice on your end. MBA International Business Specializations I will not be covering because that is not very common, Gaurav. You can check that out on some websites or directly from Google. Also, I have heard Arnab has started. Also, I have heard growth to higher position HR domain is slow. Not necessarily. Depends on the organization to organization. If you are part of, let's say, a high growing or fast growing startup and you are the only HR there, you might have a tremendous growth in within 6 months or 1 year's span of time. But let's say if you're a part of very established organization which already has 100 human resource managers, so it might look a bit slow to you. But again, depends on your performance, depends on the organizational goal, depends on how exactly you're performing at your work. So you can expedite that process as well if you're very good at what you do. Majority, Arnab has asked, majority of the companies in their job posts say only female candidates apply. So is the HR field more biased towards females in companies? Good question, Arnab. Only female candidates apply happens sometimes when the company is trying to actually target gender diversification, because that is crucial for any organization to work well. If there is not gender diversification, people will only behave in a certain set of way. Men think in a certain set of way, women think in a certain set of way. What gender diversification ensures is that the organization has a balanced approach towards most of the problems that it is encountering. So it might happen there. It is also considered in certain roles that it might require a lot more empathy, and it is assumed to that women usually have a lot more empathy and they are better communicators than men. But having said that, not many companies do that. These are usually the companies who are trying to make their company more gender diversified, is what I have seen in my experience. Anmol is asking, for MBA in marketing, will it be good to have any certification prior to joining a B school? I've said this multiple times. Certifications don't help as much as actual internships and work experiences do. But if you want to go ahead, have, if you are interested in digital marketing, there are a lot of digital marketing certifications available in the market. And Google offers a lot of good digital marketing certifications. So you can go for that if you are interested in that field. But again, I don't think it works so well, or it has that kind of an impact to a B school interviewer or also during your placements as much as an actual internship or a live project or an actual work experience does. Anushri has asked, I am from literature background, with consultancy be a good prospect or should I focus on HRM? Depends on you. I'll be covering the factors that are involved in choosing your MBA specialization. So depends on you on what kind of career goal that you're looking at, but I'll try to cover that in subsequent slides. But your background does not matter as much as what you have done and what do you want to do in life, professionally speaking. So if you want to be a consultant, you can be. You have to develop certain kind of profile and you have to do those kind of things. If you want to be in HR management, very similar roles. HR management is, I think, a mix. To just summarize it, it is a mix of sales job as well as consulting job. So you can take that career as well, but I will be covering in my last slide on what are the factors that you can consider to choose a particular specialization or a particular career goal. Gopal has asked, right now I'm pursuing my engineering in mechanical. Suggest me a specialization MBA which is from my field. Like I'm confused between marketing and operations. Gopal, like I said, if you're good in creativity, if you want to pursue a career in creativity, you can go for marketing. Operations also requires creativity, but ops and supply chain is assumed to be known by marketing people because we do have, by mechanical engineering folks, because we do have those courses. I am also a fellow mechanical engineer, and we do have courses around supply chain management and operations management because of the industry or the engineering part of it. So it is assumed usually that we are good at it. But having said that, you can always make that switch during your MBA journey. So if you are more interested in marketing, you can always opt for marketing, develop those kind of skills, have those kind of courses, and do those kind of internships and live projects. MBA in digital transformation, I have not heard much, but we will be trying to cover MBA in information technology. I think it is similar. Basically, the companies want to, transform themselves digitally in the new digital age that we are a part of. And an MBA in digital transformation will basically become a stakeholder manager as well as how exactly to draft that change for the organization. Kartikeya Raj, 10.37%, 12.39% graduation in. No, not answered. I do not see a question there, Kartikeya Raj. IIT Kanpur versus IIT Roorkee versus XLRI. See, we are not trying to rate these colleges right now. We are trying to just cover the MBA specializations that are on offer and how exactly do we make that decision to choose the best one of them. Best for each of the respective individual that you are. All right, I think I have covered most of the comments right now. Is there any specialization for being a business analyst in life? I'm working in TCS as system engineer with 2.4 years experience as of now. There are a lot of PGDBA courses offered by IIM Calcutta and other colleges as well. Business analytics is something that has strongly picked up in the recent times. So there are a lot of MBA programs and postgraduate programs in business analytics as well. You can take any one of those if you are interested in that field. Sir, what are the job roles offered in Google or Amazon for an MBA? Product management is something I've seen. Marketing is also something I've seen. Consultancy is something sometimes also there. All right, I'll move on to the next one. MBA in data analytics or MBA in business analytics is something very similar. The roles offered are data scientist, operations research analyst, data deployment strategist, and data developer. What exactly is data management? Data management deals with the data architecture that your organization has, database systems that you want to collaborate and standardize, quality control on your data, metadata management when the data gets higher and higher, integration of all those different sets of data that you're receiving, warehousing of that data. You ought to have a data pool so that you can manage the organization's data at one place at a time. Transformation of that data, which somebody was talking about, the digital transformation. There is data transformation involved as well. And the governance of your data, because there's a lot of data coming in on an organizational level if the organization is huge. So how exactly do we govern that kind of data? What kind of skills do we require? We require analytical skills because you would be dealing with a lot of numbers. Data is basically a lot of numbers as well as a separate kind of data. You ought to have good analytical skills. You ought to have good knowledge of the tools as well. Let's say SQL, Power BI, and so on. So those go into data analytics fields. Strategic thinking, how do you make sense out of the huge sets of data that you have? That involves strategic thinking. Problem solving, after you have made sense out of the data that you have involved, after you have analyzed, how exactly do you use that data to make strategic decisions, problem solving. Domain knowledge, you ought to have, like I said, a lot of knowledge around the tools that are in market, as well as how exactly do you deal with huge chunks of data. You ought to have those. Knowledge of languages, again, R, Python are something that are very good at for data analytics. SQL is another one, and Power BI is an important tool. Tableau is also an important tool for visualization. Knowledge of statistical software, the same goes for that. Personality type, analytical problem solver. Communication is a given in most of the MBA fields that you'll be a part of. And a visualizer. How exactly do I have a set of huge data, how exactly do I make it reasonable or understandable for, let's say, a CXO or anybody in leadership who does not understand data that much, but can actually understand the visualization part of it, that I have just jotted it down in a pie chart or something, and now you understand the kind of business verticals that you are in and what kind of contribution that they respectively bring in. In the center section, I've tried to cover which colleges are good at their business analytics programs. So, like I mentioned, Calcutta has a PGDBA course which is covered in three colleges. Calcutta IIT KGP and ISA Kolkata, considered one of the best in the college, best in the country. Bangalore also has a course in business analytics. ISB Hyderabad, SP Jan, and MIMS are some of the top colleges that do have a good business analytics program. Great Lakes is also one of those colleges. Last but not the least, information technology. Somebody was talking about digital transformation, so this will also be a part of that. Job profiles after an MBA in information technology can be chief technology officers if you have a good enough work experience, or if you're being a part of a startup. Chief information officers, basically CTOs deal with what kind of tech we are dealing with, but chief information officers deal with what kind of how exactly do we communicate information within the organization as well as outside of the organization, as well as how exactly do we ensure that the information is protected and safe and secure. Information technology directors come under those domains. IT directors actually drive innovation around IT in a particular organization. Information system managers basically have all the idea about what kind of tools are being used and what is the usage of a particular tool in the organization that they're a part of. IT software, project managers. IT has a lot of project managers because there are a lot of new projects coming in every now and then. So you ought to have a project manager, you ought to also have a marketing manager, because what kind of tools or skill sets that your current resources have, you ought to market that. Analytics manager, once you have done the work, how exactly do you analyze that work? And corporate strategy manager, if you are in a company like let's say Cognizant or TCS, how exactly do we drive a corporate strategy so that we can get more clients, and what kind of projects that we have worked upon requires a corporate strategy manager. I mentioned that those roles in the left side as well. IT consultant is another role that I might have skipped out on the right side. Similar role, IT, just like an IT manager. What are the skill set? Analytical skills, mathematics and accounting, because maths is involved in a lot of algorithms. So if you are good at that, it is good to have skill in management in information technology. Project management, you ought to deal with a lot of different kinds of varieties of teams. You ought to deal with developers, you ought to deal with the product managers, you ought to deal with sometimes marketing managers, sometimes the strategy managers as well. So project management is a crucial role, which basically revolves around stakeholder management as well as timeline creation for these respective deliverables that you might have. Technical knowledge, if you don't know how, anybody can fool you. So if you have a bit of technical knowledge on the up and coming softwares, the technical team will actually try to get you some of your help, and you actually can guide and drive your tech team towards what is the common goal and what exactly do you want to achieve. Data mining and coding has recently come up. If you do not know that, management in information technology might not just be for you. Personality type, again, like I said, communication and analytical you will see everywhere, because that is a given in MBA, that you ought to be analytical as well as have good communication skills, and you will be dealing with a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, so you ought to have good communication. Problem solver and team worker, because you'll be working usually in teams and use teams on that, and different varieties of teams, so you ought to be a team worker, as well as a lot of problems come on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis, from depending upon role to role or the kind of profile that you might have. So you ought to be a good problem solver if you want to have an MBA in IT or digital transformation. All right, I'll just go through the comments again. MBA in business analytics I have already covered. You not mentioned my answers. I did not understand your question, Kartikeya. If you can go ahead and write that question again. If it was a profile based question, this is more about the MBA specialization that you can choose. Profile is something that you should not be considering in these kind of sessions, as well as for your CAT score if you have not appeared yet. Is there any role with an overlap of finance and HR? Not that I can think of, but I think there should be. There can be. If you become a chief financial officer, you'll have to deal with a lot of human resource that is a part of your team. So there can be, but I'm not sure. So please share some details about agribusiness management. I'm not much aware about agribusiness management, but I have heard the Ahmedabad course is very good. And as well as India being an agricultural economy, there are a lot of roles available, and it is a very, very growing market. So even if you do agribusiness management, it's not like there's a lesser scope of career growth in that, because India is going to be a very, very bright market if you see the next 10 years when it comes to agribusiness. So yeah, that is something that I can share with you, but I do not have in-depth knowledge of agribusiness management. My project, which is a finance project itself. Okay. How to build resume for bragging consulting roles. Anushri, like I said, your consultants basically look at if your profile is structured enough. So if you can showcase that you have had a balanced out approach during your life, like decent enough acads, but also decent enough work experience, but also decent enough extracurriculars, but also decent enough position of responsibility or leadership roles, and also decent enough co-currics for any other hobbies that you might have. If you have an interesting story, that is one aspect on how exactly you can draft your resume to bag a consulting role. The second is you ought to have a lot of spikes, or at least a few spikes. Like let's say you scored a 99.99 percentile in CAT, is a spike. Not everybody did. You started a business and it worked for 6 months and you ended up selling that business, is a spike. Not everybody will have it. You represented the country or represented your state on national or international levels multiple times in a particular sport or in a cultural dance festival or in a music festival. You sing that well that you have represented, done this, done that. These are considered spikes in your resume. So what a consulting firm is basically looking at is, at least the top tier consulting firms look at, is spikes in your resume. If you have good spikes, there's a very, very high chance that you will get a consulting role interest. So can we be placed in foreign countries after MBA? You do get projects in foreign countries, yes. Because I don't think there are enough placements in foreign sectors through IIMs, so how probable is to be placed in foreign countries? See, Vanshika, majorly MNCs are, a lot of MNCs are coming to IIMs, and because these are MNCs, as soon as you have onboarded and be done with your probation period, these organizations will actually tell you to go to clients who are overseas because you are good in communication. If you have showcased that already, they would want you to have that cultural exposure as well. So you get a lot of projects and you get to travel a lot in various varieties of fields, almost all fields, if you are an MBA. So there is a high chance that you get foreign countries to be working in as well. Preferred for a theory person. Okay, I'll try to cover that. Factors to consider while choosing the MBA specialization. Let me first cover the slides and then I'll come back to your questions. Preference and interest. Research a lot before you choose an MBA specialization, because different varieties of specialization comes with a lot of different kind of offerings, and if you have not researched well, you might end up choosing a wrong, let's say, specialization, and hence a wrong career, which might be stuck with you forever throughout your life. So research very well before you venture into specialization of a certain aspect. Don't just prioritize money. Prioritize a lot of other things. Prioritize your interest areas, prioritize what you're good at, get a clarity on what the respective fields have on offer, and then what suits your interests and strengths is something that you should be strongly clear about before making an MBA specialization decision. And does it align with your career goals and personality? Very, very important, because you might consider that this is something that I want to do because it has a good work-life balance, or this is something that I want to do because it has a lot of money, let's say any particular finance role, but you're not good at number crunching, or that did not align with your career goals that you wanted to pursue eventually in the longer run. So don't choose that specialization. So in the respective arrows that I have mentioned is how you should be thinking and looking at your preference and interest, and then be choosing an MBA specialization. Also consider the program methodology. So there are certain programs which are more theory effective, which are a lot of case study based questions. These are kind of roles which are HR management, I think, or some other roles which are not that much of a field role. Like let's say as compared to a sales manager, area field sales manager, regional sales manager will have to go to the field to actually explore what kind of distributors we have, or same goes for operations as well. What kind of inventories do we have? How exactly is that inventory being managed? So ops and sales are something that requires a lot of field work. So if you're not someone of that kind, prefer the theory based aspect. Make those presentations, make those market research things, do use the tools well, and choose those kind of specializations. So depends a lot on your program methodology as well. Do research that before choosing the specialization. Do consider the internship and placement opportunities again, because this will automatically be aligning to your short-term and long-term career goals. Obviously, if you are a top B school, there will be firms coming in from all sectors, all different industries, and top-tier firms is what you will be looking at. But having said that, if it does not align with your shorter-term and longer-term career goals, do not go for that particular stream or industry. Alumni networking. What kind of alumni network do you prefer to have? The particular field that you're choosing, does that have the same alumni, or alumni that you can look up to, that you feel that are worth, aspiring to become, and because they have traveled through your shoes. So talk to them while you are researching if you can, as well as look at them that this guy did a marketing from this particular B school, and that is where he's at 20 years down the line. Does that appeal to you, or there is something that might not be appealing to you? So, and plus, what kind of network are you looking at? So, are you looking more at a marketing network, or are you looking more at a consulting network to have? Those kind of things also appeal on how exactly you can choose your specialization. And last but not the least, the ROI, the return on investment. MBA is an expensive journey, be it for full-time 2 years, be it for a 1 year course. So, if and expensive in also in not just in terms of money, but expensive in terms of your energy as well. You are giving your prime time, 20s, 2 years out of your 20s to a particular program. So choose your specialization wisely. Do not end up choosing the wrong specialization and end up doing a career for 5 to 10 years before realizing that this was something that you were not supposed to do. Research well, like I said in the initial part, research well, get a clarity on what the respective fields have on offer, what suits your strengths and areas of interest, align it with your career goals and personality, and then choose that specialization. Yep, that is it. That is all I had for the presentation today. I hope it gives you at least some insights and ideas on how exactly to choose your specialization, as well as what kind of decision making is involved in choosing that specialization. Rishi, I think I answered your question. So roles like sales as well as operations requires a lot of field work, because you have to deal with multiple stakeholders at different levels. Consulting is something also requires a lot of travel and field work, because you actually have to understand the client's problems before solving them. But certain roles, marketing might also require a lot of field work, but certain roles like, let's say, product management, if you're not doing those surveys yourself, or let's say human resource management, is something that might require a lesser field work. So do check whatever the college's methodology is to teach that particular course before making the specialization decision. इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस के बारे में बताएं सर. I do not have very in-depth knowledge of international business, Gaurav, but yeah, you can always check out our blogs for that. Does HR have a good scope? Can we shift to doing other roles with eligibility as MBA after specializing in HR, as it's a second preference? I think you can. Certain people do make that switch, but you will have to showcase that how do you exactly fit in that particular industry or sector in that particular organization. So let's say from HR, it is easier to switch to a sales role, because you have been dealing with a lot of different kinds of people, and as well as consulting roles, because you have been a problem solver and have a structured approach as well as good communication skills. But let's say you want to switch to a marketing role or product management role or finance role, that will be a bit tougher because you have never dealt with something similar. So that will require a bit of previous experiences as well as how exact and explanation or defense on how exactly do you fit into that kind of role. Neha has asked this 6 times, can I start my MBA CAT prep now and crack without coaching? Coachings do usually help, and yeah, best time to start is right now. What coachings do is build discipline in you, because there are regular live sessions held, there are in iQuanta course, there are regular application classes being held. So that is something that you can take off, and because MBA CAT preparation requires a lot of consistency and discipline, so that's where coaching part comes in, which might not be very feasible when it comes to self-preparation. Which one is best specialization for women, HR or marketing? Depends on the woman that is in picture. Whatever her interest or her preferences is best for her, and if she has researched it enough, I think she'll get a better clarity on what exactly is the best for her. I hope those questions answer. I hope, Neha, these answer both of your questions. Sir, I am a national level power lifter with 3 goals. Will it add to my weightage to my profile? It will. If you have achieved something like that, it does add to your profile. All right, that is all the time that I had. I think I covered all the questions as well as the common specialization that we have, as well as the factors that you can consider while choosing the MBA specialization. Hope the session was helpful. If you have any further doubts or clarifications or concerns about anything in general, about MBA, about CAT preparation, you can join a WhatsApp group where free resources are being shared on a daily basis, as well as there is a community that is already in place which can help you solve a few bits of your doubts, and if those are not solved, I will also be a part of that group, so you can reach out to me as well for any of the concerns that you might have. So that WhatsApp group link will be put in the description of this video. I hope you had some information out of this and make a wise decision on choosing your specialization as well as your career ahead. All the best on that. And yeah, thank you for listening.